Hi everyone, this is Aaron from HH Watch Reviews. Welcome back to the channel. Today I have the review of the San Martin SN0109, the Pepsi GMT. So about a month ago, I decided that it was time for me to purchase my first San Martin watch. Now obviously, like anyone else, I started shopping on their store, looking at all the models, and what do you know? Within a month, I am now owner of two different San Martin watches. So I've already reviewed the other San Martin watch that I have. It's the Watch Dives collaboration with San Martin, the model number SN0121. I'll link the review up here. But yeah, so this one here was the one I purchased first. And just to go over, the reasons why I decided to go for this particular model. So first reason is the overall design and proportions of this watch. So I own a Black Bay 58. I've now had it for almost 2 years. So I'm very familiar with this design, and also the dimensions of this watch is very similar to that Black Bay 58. So that was the first reason why I decided to go for this. And the second reason is the bezel insert. So I don't think St. Martin makes a lot of watches that have an aluminum bezel insert. So this was one of the factors, that made me want to go for this. I do appreciate a ceramic bezel insert, but I'm just not fond of the whole shininess that it gives to the watch. Unless it's a ceramic bezel insert that is matte. But if it's shiny, I'm not really, attracted to that type of bezel insert. So yeah, so the aluminum bezel insert was the second reason why I went for this watch. Now, like I said, this is my first time buying a San Martin watch. So as a first time buyer, I'm just going to tell you a little bit, my experience of purchasing it, because it was a little bit of, there was a little bit of confusion. I ordered it from a website called sanmartin.watch. I thought it was an official store of San Martin watches, and turns out it's more of an authorized store, authorized dealer, I guess you can call it. And when I received the watch, I was very disappointed because it came in this clamshell box. So obviously I've watched many San Martin watch reviews, and I keep seeing those, nice leather travel type pouches. They're green colored if I'm not mistaken. So I was hoping to have one of those packages, but unfortunately it came in this clamshell box. So while I have it here, let me just go over the things that come in the box. So we have the paperwork, the warranty card. We have a spring bar tool, and we also have a screwdriver. Now, one thing I have to give it to San Martin and a lot of these, I guess, Chinese brands, the fact that they include the tools is very nice touch. I personally don't need the tools because, I've been in this hobby for a long time and I have multiple spring bar tools and even screwdrivers. But for someone, let's say, who's new to this hobby and, they decide to purchase their first watch and they decide to go with a San Martin, it's nice to have those tools because as soon as you receive the watch, you're able to, size your bracelet or even just remove the bracelet and put it on a strap. So that's a very nice touch, and I do appreciate that. So kudos to San Martin for, still adding those tools in the box for no extra charge. Now let's go over the specs and dimensions of this watch. Now this is what I measured with my own calipers. So we have 39.6 millimeters at the bezel. The watch comes in at 13 millimeters of thickness. That's including the top hat sapphire crystal. It has a lug-to-lug of 48.4 millimeters, a lug width of 20 millimeters. The bracelet tapers down to 16 millimeters and is around 18.3 at the clasp. The crown is a 6.3 millimeter size. Actually, I think it's more of a 6.8 millimeters, so close to 7 millimeters. That's a very nice grippy crown, easy to unscrew, wind the watch. So like I said, it is a screw down crown, so this gives the watch 100 meters of water resistance. The case and bracelet is made out of 316L stainless steel. Pretty much the entire watch is brushed, so you have beautiful brushing on top of the lugs that matches with the end links. The brushing continues on the bracelet and the clasp. You have the San Martin logo applied right here. The clasp has these two sides that are chamfered and polished, and the bottom also matches the chamfer. The sides of the bracelet are polished. You have more brushing on the sides of the case, and a polished chamfer that goes from one lug all the way to the other lug. And same thing on this side of the case. The transitions between the polished surfaces and the brush surfaces are very sharp, very clean. This has a 24-hour bezel for the GMT, and it's also a 24-click bi-directional bezel. So the bezel is kind of special because while the action itself, I mean, first of all, it's very grippy, so it's easy to turn. But it has this rough grittiness to it when turning it. And it's not in a bad way. Like, I actually like how it feels. I've had some old watches that had bi-directional bezels, but without any clicks, and you just felt like a friction. But this has a click and it has some friction. It's very nice to operate the bezel. The bezel is a coin edge bezel, so the ridges are very defined and it's very easy to hold. If you look at the clasp, so we have a twin trigger clasp, push, and it locks very securely. It comes in with 4 holes for micro adjustments. This is the old clasp. Now they have released their new on-the-fly adjustment clasp, which is a different style, and we'll talk about that later on in the review. So this watch, being a GMT, it is powered by the Seiko NH34. This is a newer movement that they recently released with the SSK models. So this is 41 hours of power reserve, 24 joules. It beats at 21,600 beats per hour. It's basically a modified NH35 or 38. And the accuracy is also very similar. So they're supposed to be like minus 20 to plus 40 seconds per day. But on my particular watch, this runs at about minus 6 seconds per day. So I'm very happy with the accuracy of the watch. So if we unscrew the crown, so the first position, if you turn it this way, as usual, you can change the date. So we'll go back to 26. And if you change it the other way, you can change the GMT time. And this works independently from the date wheel or any other hands, basically. And obviously, if you pull it all the way, it hacks the movement. Now let's go over a few things that I like about this watch. So like I said, I've had it for almost a month. I've tried wearing it every day, or at least for a few hours. But obviously, I'm receiving the new San Martin SN0121. I really like that watch. So, this did get a little bit less wrist time. But I think, I wore it enough, and overall, like I said, I really like this watch. So here are the main things I like about it. First thing is the matte finishing on the front of the dial. So you have the bezel insert being aluminum, that's matte. The dial itself, it's a matte black dial. We have the entire case, whether it's the top of the case or the sides, everything is brushed. So it doesn't shine too much. It's not too blinky, and I really like that about this watch. The second thing that I like a lot is the clasp. Now, I mentioned before, this is the old clasp. It doesn't have the on-the-fly adjustments. But what I like about this clasp is, first of all, the bevels. So these bevels not only give it a beautiful design, but it also makes it so that it is not sharp on any edge on top of the bezel. So whether it's the bottom, the top, the sides, none of these sections are sharp. The only portion that's a bit sharp on this old clasp is the bottom portion right here. But even that, like, you can barely feel it on your wrist. So I really like it. And the second thing I like about this clasp is the actual design itself. So it's not just a straight cut like the new on-the-fly adjustment clasp. It has some design aspect to it. So you see right here what I'm talking about. So this little design, rounded edges here, this gives it more character, and I really, really like this design. So yeah, so overall this clasp for me is, very, very good. And I don't really mind the fact that, there's no on-the-fly adjustment. At least there's 4 holes for micro adjustments. So, for me, that wasn't too much of an issue. Now, the third thing I really like about this watch is that sapphire crystal. The sapphire crystal has AR coating on the underside, if I'm not mistaken, and legibility is great. And doesn't matter what angle you look at it, it's very easy to read the time. But what I like about it is the fact that it's a top hat crystal. So this gives it really a nice vintagey look, very similar to my Black Bay 58. So yeah, I really, really do like it, and it really goes well with the design of bezel that they chose. So the coin edge bezel. Now, the lume. So I didn't mention the lume yet, but it is BGW9 lume. It shines very bright. I like the fact that the markers are white. So I will show you a lume shot around the end of the video. Now, the next thing that I like about it is the size. So like I mentioned before, I have a Black Bay 58. So that's around 39 millimeters in diameter. So this is very similar to that watch. And like I said, this is an homage to another Tudor model. That Tudor model is a much bigger watch, a much chunkier watch. So this being the size around 39 to 40 millimeters, I think is perfect, especially when you look at the thickness of it too. So being at 13 millimeters, and that's including that, top hat crystal, this wear is really nice on the wrist, and I really appreciate the fact that St. Martin decided to go with this size. And lastly, the overall design. So yes, this is not an original design, so I wasn't sure if I was gonna add that to the list of things I like, but I do. I really do like the design, and even though it's not original, it's still very nice. So whoever designed it first, kudos to them, right? So very, very nice. Now, things I don't like and would like for them to improve. So the overall quality of the finishing of the watch when it comes to the edges. And I've mentioned this in my other review of the SN0121. There's sharp edges. So the case and bracelet, all the bottom edges are very sharp. So if they can improve that, that would make it even better. The second thing is the applied logo. So I've mentioned this again, and I'm going to repeat it until they decide to do something about it. The applied logo does not look good. There's this whole unbalanced situation going on here in the dial. So you have text in the bottom that's printed, and then you have a big chunky applied logo. I don't know if it's the size or it's just the fact that it's just a logo and there's no text accompanying it. It just doesn't look good. So I prefer to have a printed logo, and even more just, a printed text brand name. So like just write San Martin on top. That would look very nice. And speaking of applied logos, here's an example. So this is my wrist shot today. I'm wearing a Seiko mod that I made myself. And you see, this is a Seiko 5. So the old Seiko 5 logo, there was an applied 5 right below the Seiko branding, right? So this looks a lot better in my opinion, because there is the brand name Seiko right on top of the actual logo itself. And I think this just gives it a better proportion to the logo, and overall just a better design. So maybe San Martin can do something similar and maybe just add San Martin written in text beneath the logo and make the logo a little bit smaller. That might actually improve the entire look. I'm not sure yet, but definitely, there's something to do with that logo. Now, I did mention the clasp being something that I really like, but it's also something that I think they should improve on. And it's not specifically this clasp, but their new clasp with the on-the-fly adjustments. So like I said, I really like the design of this clasp. So I don't know why their new clasp is different looking, and in my opinion, a lower quality finishing. So if they can just take this clasp, put whatever is needed to make it work on the fly with the on-fly adjustment mechanism, and that's it. Call it a day. So you already have a beautiful design clasp. I don't know why they decided to change it, right? So just take this and make it on the fly adjustment, and that's it. So as you can see, there's not a lot of things that I don't like about this watch. So far I'm 2 for 2, both San Martin watches that I've purchased. I'm super happy about it. Love wearing these watches. Hopefully, future watches that I purchase from them will be as satisfying as these ones. Now let's discuss what future versions or wish list I would like for them to do. Give us more colors once again. So I know this is an homage to a watch that exists, and that watch came in a certain colorway, right? But you can do an homage to a certain watch, but don't limit yourself just the way they limited, or do exactly what they did, right? So give us more colorways. Like here we have blue and red, but you can add a black and red bezel insert. Exactly the same, dial and hands, and that would look really good. Maybe a green and yellow, or a black and green. I don't know, make it a left hand and do green and, black. I'm sure nobody thought about that, right? But no, but seriously, like if you're gonna do an homage or even, copy a certain design, don't limit yourself to only the things they did, and give us more options. And I think that just, will make it stand out a little bit more. So yeah, so that's what I would like to see in the future versions. Obviously, the applied logo and the class improvements could be very nice in future versions. But yeah, so that's about it. So why choose a GMT watch? So I don't really need to time another time zone, or I don't travel a lot. I don't work with somebody who's in a different time zone than me, so I don't really need to know the time elsewhere. The only person who's outside of the country that I need to keep in touch is my sister, and she's in the exact same time zone as me. So yeah, so why do I need a GMT watch? So I don't really need the GMT function, but I do like, just to have an extra hand on the dial. Just gives it something more to look at, and I just like the look of it. And personally, I use the GMT hand just to match the current time, but like to show me whether it's AM or PM. Now you might be asking yourself, why don't you just look outside the window and you'll know if it's AM or PM, right? But it's not necessarily for that. So because I have many watches in my collection, I often, don't wear the same watch for multiple days. So when I come to one of these watches and I want to wear it, oftentimes it's stopped and it's not running. And instead of just pulling the crown and changing the date and then setting the time, well, I can see right away, okay, is the current time AM or PM? So for example, if I look at this, if it was just a three hand, I would say, oh, it's 10, 7, 18, right? So I'm not 100% sure if it's 10 PM or 10 AM. And we all know that, you shouldn't be changing your date if it's past 9, so between 9 and 3 AM. But like setting the GMT to match the hand, the hour hand, now I know that it's actually 10 AM. So I don't care. I can just pull the crown, set the date to whatever date it is, and then pull the crown again and then set the time, right? So I don't really care because I know it's an AM and I'm fine. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I have a GMT watch, I guess, and that's how I use it. Yeah. All right, so let's do a wrist shot. So like I mentioned in the beginning, I have a 7-inch wrist. So this is what the watch looks like. I really like the taper on the bracelet. 20 to 16 millimeters, I think, is the perfect taper. The watch sits very close to my wrist. Honestly, I did mention the sharp edges, right? But if you wear your watch tight like me, you really don't feel the sharp edges. I think it's mostly if you wear it loose. Sometimes during the day when my wrist shrinks, it becomes loose, and that's when I really feel the sharp edges, but usually I don't. So it's not a big issue, but it's still something that, they can improve on. So while I was changing the strap on this watch, I noticed something because I wanted to try the same strap on the other San Martin watch that I have, which is the SN0121. And I noticed that the lug hole are not in the same place. So let me just zoom in, you'll see what I mean. So these two cases are very similar. So they're there's very little difference in size. But I figured that, maybe the lug holes would be the same, right? But if you look at the top one is the SN0109, so the GMT. The lug hole is actually much lower than the SN0121. Now, this doesn't really make a difference if you're, wearing it on the bracelet. But if you're trying to put a strap, it's very hard to put it on this watch compared to the GMT. I don't know why it's different. So you see, like I said, I'm wearing it on this Tropic, right? So this fits perfectly on the GMT, but I cannot put this strap on the 0121. Like, it just doesn't fit. Like, this portion of the strap is too thick to fit. So I can fit it this way, but I cannot fit it this way. So the lug hole is too close to the case, so it does not accept straps, or especially rubber straps that are a lot thicker at this end. So yeah, so this is not really a fault of the GMT. It's just something I noticed when changing straps and trying straps on different both of these watches. So I guess this is a positive for the GMT model. So this is how I've been wearing the watch lately. What do you think of the combo? It's a gray Tropic strap. It has that awesome vanilla scent. By the way, that vanilla scent, initially I wasn't very fond of it. Like, I thought it would smell too hard, too strong. but over time you get used to it and it's actually very pleasant. What do you think? Do you like the vanilla scent on rubber straps? Let me know. But yeah, I think it matches the bezel insert very nicely. Let me put it on the wrist. Has this very nice taper to the strap also. It goes from 20 to about, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 15. Obviously it goes a lot smaller at the end of on the tip of the strap, but I think it's really, really nice. So yeah, let me know what do you think. So this about wraps up the review. Now I'm going to leave you with a loom shot like I promised. And if you enjoyed this video, please do like the video. Feel free to share it with friends and anyone who's interested in these watches. And if you want to watch more watch content and reviews, subscribe to the channel. I try to post a review or video almost every week. And to those who mentioned the quality of the audio in previous videos, I did upgrade my mic. So let me know if the audio has improved. Also, let me know if you use your GMT hand for the same purpose as I do. Obviously, if you're not tracking another time zone, is there any other uses for a GMT hand? So leave a comment. Let me know what you guys use it for. So yeah, so hope you enjoyed the loom shot. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.